guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over two different articles dealing with the subject of single moms refusing to date single dads. Yes, you want to talk about being hypocritical here. And in both stories, these single moms absolutely, no way and how, want the single dads. They want a guy who has no other commitments to obviously give them their all. And obviously this is crazy for two giant reasons. Number one, most of you know at this point how much guys are shamed all the time for not wanting to date or get involved with a single mom. Because basically, they are such damsels in distress that need to be rescued. When in actuality, a vast majority of them are in the situation they are because of very bad choices. Okay? And sadly, there's plenty of suckers and white knights out there that will swoop in and save them, and those guys are the ones that need saving. Also, number two, a lot of these single moms that say they don't want to date the single dads, they themselves still wanted guys to date them and take care of their kids, be a babysitter, an ATM, all that. It is crazy. And so, again, as so many of you obviously have learned to be very well guarded around the single moms, avoid them and everything, this is only going to reinforce that point. Now, again, I've said many times, not all are like this. I've known some good ones, but a lot of them are really messed up and best to avoid them. So the first article, and both articles obviously deal with these two individual women. The first one, she's way worse than the second one, and you'll see why in a second here. Titled, I'm a single mom, I date, but I don't date single dads. She says, I was away for a month, home for a month, he said on her first off-the-app coffee date, recounting the end of his marriage. He was a nice guy, in good shape, and attractive. But he had kids, and the judgmental words flew out of my mouth before I could even soften them up. I said to him, how is that conducive to fatherhood and a relationship? Right there. She's already judging him like he's the bad guy here. They're divorced. He's got to do what he has to do. She says, I couldn't stop myself from judging single dads. My ex had also been away with work all the time, leaving me to do the lion's share of raising our two kids. I had to adjust my life and work around his work. Well, that's because he obviously probably made the lion's share of the income and had to do that, Mom. I told you this chick's a jerk. I was clear that I could never see this guy again. This date was bringing up resentment on behalf of a woman I'd never even met. I ignored his text to meet up again. So she ghosted the guy. The guy's reaching out to her, and she came and had the decency to say, hey, you know what, you're a nice guy. I enjoyed our coffee, but it's not going to work out. She just ghosted him to punish him for basically being like her ex. Then there was another guy I got on well with. He was chatty and fun, but he had a daughter who he had 50-50 custody of, and I saw himself as the stable, less chaotic parent who had clear routines. Maybe it was true, but I couldn't see beyond the things my ex-husband probably said about me in our custody situation. At the time, I was fighting against losing 50% of my time with my kids, and it stirred up panic and loss for me. I never had a second date with that guy either. Oh, for goodness sake. But you notice that little part there? I'm sure most of you heard it. She's presently fighting against losing 50% of her time with the kids, so he gets half, she gets half. It's got to be pretty bad if she has to fight that, like because maybe the court or the judge or somebody sees her as a problem. You can see this is just the first page alone. She's really is mental. You want to get involved with her? And by the way, guys, I am going to post the links to this article in the comment. I'm not the comment section, in the description, and you can click and see what this gal looks like. You can read along and all that. She continues saying, even a single dad who'd moved 4 hours away from his kids and only saw them over school holidays wasn't right for me. What kind of father moves that far away from his kids? Nobody can make her happy here. You notice this? Men with children couldn't win. If they had equal custody, I felt like they were the enemy. I didn't want to think about my own sons being taken away from me. If they spent less time with their children, I had a negative reaction to that too. See? No guy can make her happy. Every guy's a jerk to her. And by the way, lady, if your sons are being taken away from you, you losing custody, perhaps there's a reason for that. And I can see this in this story here. She says, I started dating men without children. The answer for me has been to date men without kids. I found this to be easier as I only have time to date when my children are with their father. I'm not looking for someone to be a father to my kids. I have no desire to mix those two worlds. Okay, but you're more than happy to have a guy probably come in and certainly help out. Let's be honest here. Navigating dating apps as a single mother was tricky at first. If the app didn't require me to mention my children, I didn't. Instead, I would bring them up when it was relevant, which sometimes meant I'd never heard from my date again. So in other words, how hard is it to let the guy know early on, or put it in somewhere on the dating app, or mention the first date? But instead, she just waited. How many of you guys been through that? So I tried not mentioning kids at all to see if that worked better. But it was weird and uncomfortable, and my story just didn't add up. Why was I living in the city where I didn't have many friends and in an apartment that was more expensive than one single person would need? I went back to mentioning being a mother. Dating men without kids has been less complicated. Some run a mile the first whiff of children, but others stick around and have no problem with it. I met some men who were brought up by single mothers, which gave them respect for my setup. A few have had complex relationships with their own moms and are drawn to my nurturing side I developed since becoming one myself. Nurturing? Really? I'm having a hard time believing that. On my breaks from motherhood, I'm also free from the constant issues and tensions that can come from having an ex who has to remain present in my life. In that more carefree mode on my days off, the last thing I want to deal with is someone else's ex, even if it's just hearing about them. I prefer to keep dating simple. In the 5 years since I've been single, I'd say a third of the guys I've been interested in have been single dads, and 2/3, if not all of them I knew had kids. So I can see obviously she doesn't want the drama, but the problem is that at the end of the day, still, she's going to want a guy in the picture, and sooner or later, if it gets serious, he's going to see those kids and be a part of that whole thing. So it's all about her. Plus, my theory is also this, is that she wants a guy's undivided attention. If a guy has kids, that attention is going to be split up between his children, who are going to come first, and her. So it's easy to have a guy give her all the attention, his time, his energy, not to mention resources, let's be honest here. You read between the lines and you can see what's really going on here. She says, after deleting the dating apps from my phone a few years ago, that these days I only date men I'm already friends with, even if they live in other countries. Some of them have already met my sons. I make it a point to keep the romantic side of things for my off-duty days. Interestingly, the non-fathers are just as hard to make plans with as the dads, because they're equally busy with travel, hobbies, and friends, and not looking after kids. I found they tend to be into more casual relationships than single dads, who often seem to be looking for a life partner. Motherhood demands a lot of my time and attention, so less intense relationships suit me better at this point in my life. I like not having to talk about where the relationship is going and how we could one day blend our families and juggle exes. Single motherhood is complicated. I prefer my dating life to be simple. So she doesn't sound like she's building relationships here. She's just having hookups, something very casual. And if she wants that, fine, okay? That's her business. I wouldn't be involved with someone like this for many reasons. But the thing is, again, back to the whole thing, men are shamed all the time because they don't want to date the single moms. But when a single mom doesn't want to date a single dad, then nobody blames her. It's ridiculous. Now here's the second article, and this one is covering a chick who posted a story on Reddit. This title is, Single Mom in her 40s refuses to date men with kids, and the internet agrees with her reasoning. Yeah, of course, the internet, with the very picked and chosen comments to associate with this, are going to pick her side. If a guy said he refused to date single moms, they lose their mind, and we all know it. Says here, being a single mother is difficult, and parenting becomes truly life-altering for someone who has to raise 2 kids alone. Someone who gives their time and energy to raising 2 children into responsible adults while giving up other pursuits in life for almost 2 decades. Surely deserves to live it up when the kids can take care of themselves, such as the tale of such and such Redditor, who is a single mom in her 40s and refuses to date single dads and with minor kids. She revealed this reason behind this Reddit post and asked people if she had made the right decision. Well, we know darn well that Reddit is flooded with individuals that, would see a woman like this as, as a savior or something like that. Someone they would support. And if a man wrote the same exact post, he would be crucified, and we all know this. The woman started by revealing by saying, when I was 22, I had 2 kids under the age of 2 years old with my ex-fiancée. 22. I came home from work one day after picking up the kids from daycare to find my ex had left. Her partner left with his clothes, the emergency money, and even all the electronics in their apartment. The mom tried to call everyone they knew to find him, but there was no sign of the man. All I got from his parents was he's okay and he would contact me when he was ready. After 6 months, the man's sister admitted that he had been cheating on her for years. Okay, so this guy sounds like a scumbag. And obviously, if these are his kids, he obviously needs to help support them. But still, that's a tough break. I'm not going to deny that. Nobody would want that to happen to their sister or their aunt or somebody they cared about, or niece or daughter. She says his affair had graduated from college, got a job offer across the country, and he moved with her. My oldest was 1.5 years old, my youngest was about 3 months old, and I was a single mom by the ripe old age of 22. The family had never heard from him ever since. Holy shit. Honestly, the relationship was shit, and it wasn't a huge adjustment to being a single mom. I finally realized he was truly gone and tried to date again, she added, and the mom set some ground rules for dating. So, obviously, we don't know the whole story here, but that makes him a scumbag. If those are his kids, he should be paying up for them. I mean, if those are his kids, and he abandoned them. And that's a tough break for her. But then again, something tells me she probably knew this guy was kind of a scumbag early on. She says, these dates, they wouldn't meet my kids until we had dated for at least 6 months, and we're seriously talking about a future. I would only go on a date after the babysitter and I put the kids to bed at 7:30 p.m. and had to be home by 11 to relieve the sitter. I couldn't just leave to go do anything spontaneous, and I certainly wasn't going to spend the night anywhere. As you can imagine, this didn't go well. The dating scene wasn't kind to her, and she faced 3 main setbacks. Complaints about not putting enough into the relationship, men not ready to become dads, or to look after another man's kids. I thought this was fair enough. Well, that's going to happen, you know. She's the only one for those kids, so she has to take care of them. Fair enough. On the other hand, if a guy wants a relationship and somebody he can spend time with and go on trips with, be spontaneous, it's not going to work with her. Therefore, better he is with a chick that doesn't have kids. And better woman like this is with a guy who has kids because they kind of understand the same thing. But you're going to see she doesn't want a guy like that. Rarely did I go on a date with a man with more than a couple times. By 25 years old, the woman had given up on dating and did everything with her kids, including going to the movies and getting her hair done. We called ourselves the 3 Musketeers, she said, adding to that she became completely indifferent when it came to repairs and help around the house. She said, my kids grew into wonderful people. They're adults now and have adult jobs. They're both in long-term relationships, the woman continued, and said about 6 months ago, my kids had a come-to-Jesus talk with me. They were worried I spent too much time alone and wanted me to start dating again. The woman agreed, but she doesn't want to parent another person's children after spending years raising her own. Well, sure, after raising kids on your own, all that, yeah, I can see you would want to do it again. But isn't the same woman who dated guys and probably wanted them to be with her and help with her kids, and they weren't interested and they were the bad guys? You see what I mean here? The men who have contacted me have children anywhere between ages 4 to 14, and I explained that I was not interested in dating someone with minor children. They get angry at me since I'm a single mom, and I should know how hard it is. She admitted, I know how hard it is, and I'll be damned if I do it again. Well, I got to point something out. She is now in her 40s, okay? She is no longer, her prime is way bye-bye to her a long time ago. It is what it is, okay? Now, maybe she looks damn good for her age. I don't know. There are women in their 40s who look fantastic for their age. But to find somebody that wants to commit to you, if you're going to find a single guy that doesn't have any kids, that's going to be a problem. You know, I mean, she's going to probably need to find a guy that is much older, and she may not want that. Or the guys that are in her age range that would be interested in her are probably going to be the single dads, and she doesn't want them. So these are very unrealistic expectations. And once again, she's being cheered upon for being all these things they cheer about. But if a guy said the same thing, you know darn well, all the torches and pitchforks would come out. She continues saying, they, as in the guys, get mad when I state basically the same thing as I heard as a single mom in my 20s. They wouldn't have time for a relationship. I don't want to go back to being a parental relationship, and I don't want to parent another woman's children. She got multiple arguments in return. A man went as far to say, I must hate dad since my kids left me. The woman reasoned. I asked him if when he was in his early 20s, would he date a single mom? And he said no, but this is different. I said, just because you were 24 and I'm now 44, nothing is different. She remarked, he called me a hypocritical bitch, and I blocked him, but it bothered me enough, and I'm awake late on Saturday night thinking about maybe I'm asking too much. You are asking too much. You're being unrealistic. I mean, look, lady, it's your life. You can do whatever you want to do. But you have to understand it's just simply this is not going to work. The type of guy you want, it's not going to work. She wondered if she should get a dog and wait for another 10 years, but people expressed support for her in the comments. One person says, don't date or don't date whoever you want. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Another one says, good luck with your search and have a nice day. Another one says, just one more confirmation that most men feel entitled to women's unpaid labor. I said it and I stand by it. Oh, for goodness sake. Anyhow, guys, there you go. 2 articles there making the point. It's hilarious. The hypocrisy there. Because I guarantee both of them, they wanted guys to help them when they were younger with the little kids. But now that the situation is what it is, nope, no single dads. I don't want to deal with it. And you can't tell me it isn't part of it that they want the full attention from the guy. No competition. So there you go. I've covered these stories countless times, articles, stories over the last 4 years on all 3 channels, and you need to be careful. That's all I can say about that. But just the level of how unrealistic it can be. But some people got to learn the hard way. Anyhow, guys, thought you'd find that quite funny today. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you find a good article you want me to cover or a personal story you want to share, send it my way, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.